I'm poppin'. This a layup, this a rebound, then it's dropping. Tasting with the fade, not the air, my hands rocking. When I link with ballpoint, you know it's knocking. I'm not the same. Thinking money made me change, nothing else to blame. Gucci stuck up in my way, singing Gucci gang. Gucci gang, think I'm Gucci man. I'm just playing in the cut, I got my vans on. I'm not selfish, I get on to put my mans on. Always greedy since the day I got my first eight. 5'7", but I'm 6'8" when I stand on the money pals. Need a money counter, I broke my thumb from dumbing down. Wifey on my line, she told me to dumb it down. Mama on my line, asking how I'm dumbing down. I think you only love me cause I'm poppin'. This a layup, this a rebound, then it's dropping. Tasting with the fade, not the air, my hands rocking. When I link with ballpoint, you know it's knocking. Get out my way. I'm so unashamed, throw to my veins. Like my 2K green or blue, I'm not into games. Focus on your player's face while I'm stacking change. We throw out what you got on your whole Kool-Aid. Every time I drop a notch, make that school face.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 321 for January 7th, 2024. That's right. Brand new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. New gaming year coming up here. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff coming up this year. Maybe some hardware, software, hopefully. Well, that's pretty much, I think, all we're waiting for is some software. We're going to be talking some games tonight. We're talking some news and then some more games, as we usually do in our round robin to round out the episode. But before all that, let's get to our hosts. I am Tom Master99. Don't think I mentioned that. And with me tonight, unfortunately, you couldn't have DBQ tonight, but hopefully he'll be back next week. But we do have one Mr. Game Logic. Game, how you doing? Happy New Year. Hopefully you had a good break. If you had time off, I'm assuming.
Time off is a relative term, and no, my break was not that good. But you know, hey, we're back. It's 2024. It's time to start gaming.
That's right. Well, hopefully it'll be better here coming in the new year now in the next few days. Let's get started with our main GX stories. I will start us off, and I've started playing a new shooter, and I wasn't too sure about it when I first heard about it. It is The Finals. I was going to look up the name of the developer and I forgot. I'll do that in a second. But I've been playing that on my Xbox Series X and PC, mostly on my PC. I think I've played like 5 or 6 games on my Xbox so far. But it's if you don't know what The Finals is, kind of there's 2 different modes basically, and they all deal around money. It's kind of like a game show type of setup that they have. So the one mode is basically there's a cash box within the world somewhere. There's like 3, maybe like 4 or 5 different maps. I think there's a variation on one of the maps, which kind of makes it that 5th map. But there's a cash box in the world somewhere. You have to get that cash box, which takes like a few seconds or whatever, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Once you get it or unlock it, you have to take it to a drop-off box or a cash, deposit box, and then you get that money. And I think it's that mode. Actually, they might be all modes. Might be like 40,000 money or dollars, whatever the currency is in the game, and you win the match in that mode. And then the other one, similar. There's still cash boxes around the area, but besides the cash boxes, but when you kill a person or eliminate a person, you also they drop money too, so you can get money that way. And it's that mode where you kind of get the cash money box. In the first mode I was just describing, I forgot to mention, there's it's like a physical box that you have to pick up and take over to the deposit area. In this mode, it's just money that falls out of the cash box. So you just pick up the money and then get to the drop-off box. So it's a little bit more forgiving. And I tend to like that the letter mode. It's a little bit more quicker. There's not as much camping as in the other mode. There's only starts with 2. There's another mode I'll talk about too in a second. But then there's 2 vaults is what they call them, the cash boxes. And then there's 2 drop-off boxes. So in that first game mode, there's three teams. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3 teams of 3 people. Um, so you're kind of fighting between the two, and there's a lot of camping in that mode. People are camping usually the deposit area because people just get the cash box and they'll bring it. They obviously you get they gotta bring it to the deposit area. So those people always camping there, and just it's kind of annoying. So it's kind of a crapshoot depending on which deposit box you go to. Sometimes everybody stays on one, which is kind of annoying, and then like the other one's free, and just like one team just like kind of wins the game that way because no one's paying attention to them. So it's, people are not paying attention to the whole arena; they're just paying attention to one area. But and there's counters for trying to do that and stuff like that. And maybe I'll get a little bit more detail into that in a second. But that one's a little bit slower. It's a little methodical. It's like, but then the other one is like there's a few different areas you can go to. I think there's actually 3 different deposit areas in the second mode. So it's a little bit more forgiving. And that one has 4 teams of 3 people. So there's an extra team in that mode just because it's so much faster. And then as far as there's kind of like classes, I guess. There's a small, medium, and large person. Basically, like literally, that's what it is. It's like small, medium, and large that you pick, and they all have their different abilities. Small is obviously faster. They have more traversal abilities. They have like a grappling hook, which I think is the first like power that you can get. There's a camo mode where you kind of go like predator, it's kind of like shimmering effect, which I think is a little overpowered. That's just me personally. And then there is the, I think they call it like blink. It's basically kind of like a teleport or like a dash move that, you just kind of move real quick off to whatever direction you're pointing at the time. So there's that one. There's medium. He's more balanced, kind of has a little bit of traversal and a little bit of the heavier powers and weaponry. So I started off with that one, and that's when the videos I've seen. This is like one of the games where I was like, man, I want to get better in this game. I want to learn. So I've been watching videos, and that everybody says that obviously the medium is like the go-to when you're first starting out. So that's what I had picked, right away, pretty much. The small has like submachine guns and pistols for the most part, and the medium has more ARs, automatic rifles. I think they have pistol too. And then they're kind of, like I said, they're kind of balanced. They have somewhat traversal items. They have like a jump pad and not a grappling hook, but like a zip line they can throw out, kind of like in Apex Legends with Pathfinder. And then most everybody has like regular grenades and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of differences there. And then you got the heavy class, who's obviously a tank person, so he can take most damage. It takes a long time to kill him unless you're hitting him in the head, which you can take him out fairly quickly. And then, going back to light person real quick. He's like pretty easy to kill. Like, he's the weaker of all 3 of them. But the heavy, he's a big tank guy. He's got shields. He's got kind of like call it a goo gun, where it's like that kind of, you throw it out and it kind of like spreads out. So, you can make a barrier. You can use it for traversal kind of a little bit too. So if you can't get to somewhere, because obviously he doesn't really have any other traversal abilities really. Other than that, like if you're trying to go vertical, you can kind of use that goo gun or goo grenades that he also has, kind of get up stuff. So that's kind of nice. But his 3 main like super abilities is like a charge, slam. He can do a slam too. So he kind of just like runs at whoever the person is or a building or whatever. And they obviously take a lot of damage from that. And then also he can, if you're up high, or you can jump at the end of that charge, he'll kind of jump up and kind of do like a Hulk slam and like slam the ground. It's kind of a little bit more powerful. And then he has goo gun, and then a shield, like not a bubble shield, but there's a bubble shield grenade that he has. But there's a shield that's kind of like a half shield that he just kind of throws out in front of him, so for protection. So that's heavy guys, gets used a lot in that first mode, the cash out mode I was talking about, where you have that physical cash money box you got to take places. So when you're trying to get the deposit, deposit your money, he's a good guy to have around to block all the bullets and stuff. Which his stuff is a little overpowered too, because the shield, your teammates and not yourself, but your teammates can actually shoot through the shield, and obviously any bullets coming in can get shot. So I can kind of see them maybe changing that. That's a little unfair. The same with his bubble shield. When you throw it down, you can shoot through it, and yourself can shoot through it because obviously you're not holding the shield itself, but people can obviously shoot in. So that I don't know if either that or maybe they can like weaken it, I guess, because I think it takes a good bit of damage before it actually gets taken out. So those are the three main classes. And like I said, there's other grenades and stuff that kind of share, and there's some specific ones for each one. But it's a really fun game. It's really fast, which I think one of the best things I like. Kind of reminds me of Call of Duty back in the day. And these are actually some of the devs are actually from Battlefield, so that kind of makes sense because everything is pretty much destructible, all the buildings and everything, so you can take everything out, which is actually kind of nice and pretty fun. So that's another layer on top of everything else with all the traversal and all the weapons and stuff. Is you can take out a building that someone's trying to deposit something in, or a floor, at least a floor or something like that. So it's been really fun. I've been playing that. Played a little bit before my break. I went out little winter vacation. I played a little bit before then, and I've been playing this past weekend also with my one friend that I play most stuff with. But it's been a really great game. And the other mode I was talking about is really it's not a separate mode. It's just like a ranked tournament basically that you can go through. So you start off with 8 teams, and then you kind of keep going up until there's only one left. So there's only 3 rounds in that tournament. Excuse me. And it's just the only thing is it's only that cash out mode, that first mode where you have that physical box and you got to take it to the deposit station. So it gets pretty hectic and pretty that's where it gets like the camping comes into play. Like people are obviously going to be just camping those areas all the time, and it's just kind of annoying. But we had a third person that we've played with other games that we've actually brought in, and we've actually finally kind of figured out that mode, because the first few times we played it, we were like, oh man, this is just like it's just garbage. Like we can't do anything. But I think it was just us trying to get used to all the characters that we use, and just the environments and how to play and stuff. So we actually won a couple last night actually when we tried it again. So that was pretty good. So having a lot of fun with it. So I'm gonna keep on playing. Any questions or comments? Game? Have you tried it out? I don't know if you had a chance to try it out yet.
I have not. I talked to the guys on the DPS podcast, Damage Per Second podcast, and they were really up on the game. I really like the notion of it's kind of like a heist, which of course means it is, in my mind, very much formulated along the lines of what we seem to have been led to expect of. I cannot remember what is the name of the PlayStation Live Service game that's coming up. That's by Jade Raymond's studio. But it seems like that's a similar motif, which is basically you go out into this arena with multiple teams and you're trying to pull off a heist. It's kind of you against the other teams who are trying to achieve that same objective. That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see then, if that game does come out, and if it comes out, in 2024 or into 2025. I believe it was one of the games when Sony talked about readjusting their strategy, that it was one of the games that was kept and pushed some of those live service games off for a year. I believe that was one of the ones that was going to stick with a release date, I think of this year. So it'll be interesting to see, those games go head to head. I have not had a chance to jump into it yet personally. I've just, my live service time is unfortunately continues to be occupied by Halo Infinite and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I have not been able to really shake loose time for yet another live service game because I've been, taking the time that I have had to play some of the single player stuff. So, but it does look super interesting. And you've been playing it on both PC and Xbox Series X?
Yeah,
Okay.
I played it mostly on PC, a little bit on Series X so far.
Okay, does it do 4K 120 or any resolution 120 on Xbox?
Oh, I haven't checked yet. I can check that and try to report out next time. But yeah, I didn't really notice. I didn't really look in the video settings and stuff, or any kind of stat like that on Xbox. So I haven't had a chance to check that yet.
Okay. Well, generally on Xbox, it goes off the system level settings much more so than. I mean, PlayStation has your system level settings, and then it has your your global kind of preferences. I mean, you can set those differently from your global resolution setting, and then it typically has in-game. But on Xbox, it tends to be, you set the system, the TV and display mode for 4K in your frame rate, and then pretty much it's from my experience, there aren't that many games that have in-game specific like resolutions and settings set. Although some do, like Forza kind of gives you a switch to go from performance and quality mode. So your Series X is upstairs now or down?
Yeah, I have it actually on my 4K TV, so it should be. And I did set all that to I turned all that on, so it should be. I'm assuming it should be then.
Okay. And do you put it in? I mean, so there is not performance and quality on Xbox. There's just, you go into that TV setting screen and it's 4K, and you either set it to 60 or 120. So do you remember?
That I don't remember. Yeah, I'd have to go back and check that for sure.
Okay. And any notion of how it performs on PC?
No, yeah, I haven't really checked. Although I kind of put down my graphics settings though recently, because I was kind of when I was watching those videos, I was like, hey, put everything down so you can get better, frames and all that. So I kind of did that. So I do have it. Most stuff is on like the lowest quality right now. Still looks good though. It still looks great.
Okay. Yeah, and I've actually been doing the exact opposite. I've been bumping my quality settings up because I've been underutilizing my GPUs. My GPUs, like I'll be getting 120, 160 frames per second, and my GPU temperature will still be like in the 40s and barely breaking 50. And somebody mentioned something somebody mentioned something to me, and they were like, "Are you running on like all low settings?" And I answered, but I was like, I think what they really mean is underutilizing my GPU. So I've been cranking everything up.
It depends on the game though too, like what you're doing. So obviously, like this, like a shooter and stuff, you probably want that. Which like I said on those videos, that's what they say to do. So just to get the better performance. So
well, that's all I mean is in shooter. So for shooters and racing games, I have been obsessive about like 120 frames per second or greater. On all other games, I normally go to quality. But on shooters and racing games, like I said, recently that the person asked me that question, maybe ask myself, maybe there's such a thing as too much. Like I don't really know that I need like way over 120 frames per second, So, I just haven't had a chance to check it out. But everything that I've seen looks good. Everything that I've heard looks good. Sounds good. It's very super interesting. And also, I think the breaking point for me is, and I've heard both sides, is it seems and sounds very much like an Overwatch kind of game that I would only have fun playing with friends. But I have heard, but the other co-host on the DPS podcast said he had fun solo queuing, which is my mandate, right? Yes, I love playing with friends, but it needs to be a game that I could also go in and play for an hour and I completely by myself with randos and have an equivalent level of fun, which is Call of Duty and Halo Infinite fill that bill. So yeah, I just haven't had a chance to jump into it yet, mainly because I'm hesitant, about whether or not solo queuing will feel all right or not.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned it too. Is like if you are in a group, if you have a full group of people you actually talk to, the game is actually obviously a lot better. You're going to win more often than not. But I've played plenty of games random, and I still have one, and not even just one. Like I just had fun playing the game. So I don't think that's a really big deal. I think you'd probably like it going into it solo queue. So and then that PlayStation game you're talking about is called Fair Games from Jade Raymond Studio. Yeah, it's supposed to come out at some point. They didn't say exactly in this article, but and then Embark Studios, the new studio that's doing the finals.
So we have seen lots of PvP multiplayer games come and go. We've participated in Knockout City. We've seen Hyperscape come and go. I cannot remember there was another, I gotta find it, but there was another game that like last year or maybe the year before, it started off as like a university student project and then got like VC funding and then launched. And then they recently said like in the last year, they were going to stop putting new features in the new game, but they were going to kind of go back, now that they gotten a big infusion of cash and kind of recraft the game. It was kind of one of these games that was like it was like from an independent studio, and it looked like it was gonna go. But I mean, it was from like a one person studio, and that person was staffing up, and it looked like it was kind of on that like kind of PUBG trajectory. So, and I can't remember what the
I
name
know
of
what
that
you're
is.
talking about, yeah, but I
Yeah.
can't remember. There was another game like that though, Spellbound. It wasn't that one, but I think that was from like a couple of years ago, where it's that battle royale game that had to do with magic and stuff. And then I think they actually got bought up by Activision. I think actually, so. And then they kind of just obviously they disappeared. Yeah, I'm trying to think about what that game is now, but yeah. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've seen all these things, right, come, and the unfortunate thing is we've also seen them go, right, as they've all folded and caved under the relentless march of the Call of Duties, the Apex Legends, right? I mean, just the big players on the market just squeezing smaller challengers out, and not ruthlessly, but just because, like I've contended, many times on this podcast, the market's only gonna support so many players of that type of game. Do you have high expectations of this one, and do you think, if it does come up, against fair games next year, and you have two kind of samey, games on the market, what does that look like? You've got Overwatch, you've got Valorant. Now, admittedly, maybe there's space now because Overwatch 2 is not really doing all that great. What's your take on how this thing is going to turn out in 6 months from now?
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned that because when we finished playing last night, we were actually talking about that. Like, do you think, do we think this is going to, keep going, or what do you think is going to take for this game to keep going? And I think kind of majority of our answers were like, well, if they can keep the content coming, as far as like maps, and modes, I think are the most important things. Like, they have a battle pass and there's cosmetics and stuff like that, which is, that's fine. But we were all under the consensus of that battle pass is like really tough to get through. Like, you really have to grind to get like, I thought Call of Duty was bad, but this is like way worse. Like, it takes forever just to do anything. And I've looked at videos and stuff, and like people were like, well, I mean, you can try to do this and that and other thing, but it's like pretty much you just got to grind. Basically, it's like constant grind fest. So hopefully that they adjust that a little bit. And from what the one guy was telling me, that they seem to be listening to the community. So hopefully either next season or maybe the end of this season, they try to do some adjustments. And I know if even Fortnite's done that in the past too, with their battle system, their battle pass. But as far as like, I think of the mode, like I said, the modes and the maps are going to be the most important thing. Right now, there's only those two modes, and like I said, there's the tournament mode, which just uses the one of the modes right now. So either if they can throw that other mode in the tournament also, or they just got to think of other modes to do. I think that'll help a lot. I know one of the kind of sticking points for me was like trying to add in guns or just weapons and even abilities and accessories and like grenades and stuff like that. I think that'll be kind of hard, just because everything, and I mentioned like some stuff seemed overpowered and stuff like that, and you could tweak that stuff, but like adding a whole new gun into the game, and you got to rebalance everything, make sure everything's balanced. I think that's going to be hard for them. They could probably do it like that. I could see that maybe being like a once a year thing, adding weapons and stuff like that. And my friend had a good point, is like, if they do that, if they do add weapons, especially weapons, since there's some specific weapons for each class, they're going to have to do a weapon for each class. Like, you just can't do, hey, I'm just going to do a light, we're going to release a light, class weapon, and that's it. And that could be, that's going to be the meta for however many months for to come, and that could kill your community. I think we've probably seen that in the past too, where that happens. So I think if they can keep at least the modes and the maps coming, I think that'll be the biggest thing. And everybody seems to be liking it so far. Like I said, in general, everybody seems to be liking it. So I think it has a good thing to make it through at least this coming year. But we'll have to see, after that. So
I think my big concern is I think I worry about whether or not, and I think this is the type of thing we've seen before, where there's a lot of zeitgeist and a lot of attraction because it's new, right? Because it's a distraction. Because people are like, I'm cranky about Destiny 2, I'm cranky about Call of Duty, I'm cranky about Overwatch, I'm cranky about this, I'm cranky about that. So they go do the new thing. But then after a period of time, right, then what everybody does is then they go back, right, to the, to the bread and butter, right, to the staple foods. And then that's why these things kind of, go hot and go high, very quickly, but then, then flatten out and can't maintain. So it'll be interesting to see if this thing follows that trajectory or has a better path out.
Yeah, hopefully. Sorry, I'm having some issues with my camera. I'm trying to fix it right now. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I hope it does keep going, because it is, like I said, it's really, this is my like go-to game right now. Um, and it's just really fun. And then I'm gonna hopefully keep going at it. So, any other comments or anything on that one?
Nope.
Because then my other game, and my other go-to, what used to be my go-to game, which it'll always kind of be my go-to game, will be Fortnite. And this, I kind of alluded to this a little bit during our superlatives show. So they dropped their 3 new modes kind of at the end of the year last year. And I'm going to go when I'm going to talk in order of like kind of like what I liked the least to the best. And they're all pretty good. They're all pretty good modes. And but they're just kind of my rankings. So first up, the first mode was the festival mode, which is basically like Guitar Hero Rock Band kind of mode, where you have the normal the songs playing, and you can see you guys on stage. You can use your Fortnite characters in the mode. You can see them on stage, and it's just the the vertical notes coming down, and you just hit right now you just hit buttons. So you can either use your keyboard or your mouse. Your keyboard, I'm sorry, just your keyboard if you're on PC, and then you just controller if you're playing on console, and you can use controller on PC also. But it's like I said, it's just basically Rock Band Guitar Hero. So you play a song and you play the notes. So it's fun. Hopefully this year, supposedly they're supposed to have the actual instrument support. Now I don't know. They haven't really said if that means they're gonna you be able to use their old instruments, or there was, I think, a listing, or I think like an X or Twitter, if you want, whatever you want to call it, post from some like third party um, the, vendor or company that like posted like it was just like an outline of, I think, of a guitar, and they're like coming next year or something like that, and it had like the Fortnite. I don't know if it was like a hashtag or maybe the Fortnite in the picture itself. So it seems like they're going to be making something possibly. So we'll have to see. That'd be nice, because while I enjoy it, I mean, I finally got used to doing it on a controller. It was really hard, but I was able to do it eventually. It's playing it on instruments is going to be like 100% better. So that was the first mode, and actually that was that, even though that was my kind of least favorite, and like I said, I still liked it. That was actually the last one they had released during the that what weekend period, I think, when they released all 3 of these games, which I'm kind of surprised they did that. Kind of like just I think it was like a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday really released these. The second one, which actually released on Friday of that week or weekend, was Rocket Racing, which is from and actually, I'm sorry, I'll go back to Festival for a second. Harmonix is actually doing that mode, since I completely forgot that Epic had bought them. So they're obviously makes sense that they'd be doing a Rock Band Guitar Hero type of mode. Then Rocket Racing is actually done by Psyonix, which is the Rocket League makers. So this is just I kind of compared it to like the new Hot Wheels games, and I think they have Hot Wheels Unleashed, and I think there's a 2 now that had just released a month or 2 ago. You're just racing along. There's no like power ups or anything like that. There's just like boosts, and that's pretty much it. And there's obstacles in this racing game, in the Rocket Racing. So you just got to kind of jump over stuff, and which is ability you don't have in most games. You can actually jump your car in this racing game, so you have obstacles, and then also you can jump on walls and on ceilings, where it's magnets or something. I don't know how you're doing that, but you can jump on all that. So it's really fun. It's really quick, like I don't know, like 5 minutes or something. It's like super quick. The race is 3 laps, but most of the laps or most of the games go pretty quick. So it's really fun. I really like it. Hopefully, the only problem I had with that was the maps didn't seem to rotate like really all that much, even though I think I saw like 4 or 5 maps so far. But I always seem to just like hit like the 2 or 3 at the most, like 3 at the most, just the same ones. But I think as you rank up, they kind of unlock too. So I did eventually get to the gold ranking, and I had like a lot more maps that I did finally cycle through. But still, it always seemed like it always starts on like the same two maps. Like usually when I start racing, so you have to like race a bunch of times. So, but like I said, they're pretty quick, so you get get a few races in and then jump out and do something else. So, pretty fun though. Having a lot of fun with that one again. And then the last one, which was really surprising to me, I think for me at least, was the Lego Fortnite Lego mode, which is basically a survival mode. You got your hunger and stamina, and you can there's heat and freezing that can happen. So you got to get not necessarily clothes, but like different stats that you could put on yourself and take different foods and eat different foods to help all that. But kind of Minecrafty Terraria, reminds me of Ark a little bit too with some of the building and stuff like that. So there's almost all these like kind of grab like all these survival games and like kind of mash them up into the Lego form. So the world itself looks just like Fortnite. So you're on a Fortnite island, and it's a different world when you go to start up a new world. So it's kind of like Minecraft where you put like a seed number, or well, actually Minecraft you can actually just put anything, and I think it just converts it obviously until to numbers. But here you only put numbers, so you just put a number in, and it creates a world, automatically. So it's always different each time you put in a different number. But the world itself is just looks like regular Fortnite, but all the structures and the people, or the minifigs in this case, and the animals and stuff, those are all Lego. So kind of nice because there's like a free build where you just like click each brick into each other like you really would in a Lego mode, or there's like prefabricated houses you slap down, and all you have to do is just like get the materials to slap the different and you kind of go through like like if you're going through a Lego set, you go page by page, you go brick by brick here, and but you put it in. It has like the marked off area where you got to put the piece and what kind of piece you get. So that's actually kind of, as long as you have the material, you can make those pieces. So it's actually kind of cool. So I've been playing a lot of that actually, and the one, well, a couple things I guess for all these modes. You can use, like I said, you can use your skins from Fortnite, and actually Rocket League if you're playing Rocket Racing. Um, in between all three of these modes, and there's like I think there was like over 1,000 skins that you can use that they converted over to Lego form, which most of them are just like the original Epic skins or Fortnite skins that they created for the game. There are some IP ones like Star Wars and some of the Marvel, and I don't think there's any DC ones, but some of the Marvel ones are in there. I know that that they converted over to Lego form. So those look kind of cool. Those are kind of minifig. If you know what those are, if you've played with Legos before, those are pretty cool. So it's kind of nice. You can use all that stuff in between all these modes. So, but yeah, like I said, I was kind of surprised with this mode. I thought, it's just going to be like a regular, knockoff Minecraft, or, like one of these games. But it actually is pretty deep when you get into it. With the building, obviously with the building, because like I said, you can do brick by brick or do the prefab stuff. But just with the general like survival aspects, I didn't think it does get kind of hard actually sometimes, because there's the three different biomes right now. You got just like a grass woodland area, a desert area, and then like a mountain frozen area, snowy area. So and they all kind of like, you start off on the grassland, that's like the easy mode. The desert area is like the medium kind of mode, and then the hardest mode is the frozen area. So I'm working my way up to the frozen area right now, so hopefully I'll get there one day. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, to explore. And obviously it's survival mode, so it's a little bit of grinding you can do. There's a creation mode or creator mode where they give you all the everything you need, and you don't have to worry about any survival stuff, and you can just build if you want. But I like I've said with Minecraft before, I don't like doing those modes just because it doesn't feel like a game to me at that point. Now that's just me. Fortunately, I'm not super creative when building stuff. I can do my basic, little square house or whatever, or rectangle house. But at least here I can have like something, you can do like a log cabin, or I think higher up as you go, you get like castle type buildings. So, you can do those prefab ones. So that'd be, that's kind of cool to have that. And, build those, brick by brick using the instructions. So there's just, I have a lot of fun with all these modes, and really surprised that all three of the modes are actually pretty solid. Like there's a good foundation for all three of these modes. So, and definitely, obviously, like Fortnite, they're just going to hopefully build upon them and get better over time. So All right. Any questions on any of three of those? It's kind of a lot there.
No, I haven't had a chance to play them. Obviously, the rocket racing one probably sounds most appealing to me. I was very pleased to hear that potentially skins that I bought in the very early days of Rocket League, might be usable, but haven't had a chance to get into it. But everything I've heard echoes what you said, which is that everybody that I've heard talk about them finds them fairly enjoyable. Everybody that I've talked to who's into Fortnite in the first place, because if you haven't onboarded into Fortnite, if you're one of these people who's like, Fortnite, I hate that game, or whatever, if you haven't, I haven't heard a lot of people of this being a reason for people to onboard into the ecosystem. Although I'm sure that that's out there, I just haven't heard it. It's mostly been people who have dabbled in Fortnite at least, or have at least been on the periphery, kind of hearing about these and been interested in kind of coming back and trying those modes out.
Yeah, actually the one Discord I'm on right now, that I've played with people, regular Fortnite battle royale, not these three necessarily. A little bit of Lego, but there's actually there's a few people that have come in and like, oh, I don't want to, I've never played Fortnite before, but that Lego game looks really cool. So at least that, and even the festival one, because just people remembering Rock Band and Guitar Hero. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try that out. So yeah, hopefully they get those instruments going, and hopefully I don't have to buy a new one. But I mean, if you do, you do. I guess, I suppose. I'm sure you're gonna have to at some point, because you can't like use all those old instruments and stuff forever. But it's a nice thought.
Yeah, the interesting knock-on effect will be to see. I mean, so you attract people. Again, I haven't heard a lot about it, but you mentioned it. And I'm sure it's going on out there that people who have not really onboarded into Fortnite, or at least getting on to check these things out, it would be super interesting to see if you pull those people over, which forces them to go to the Epic Game Store, which forces them to do the download, set up an account, do all that stuff, and then in the midst of all that, you do this big holiday sale where you're giving away lots of games for free. So people are probably seeing that, and I wonder if that will help kind of build out some market penetration for the Epic Game Store coming out of this holiday season as well.
Yeah. The other thing, between all three of these modes, besides the skins, that the festival, Rocket League, and Lego, you actually, whatever experience points you acquire when you're playing these modes, you can actually use that for your battle pass in the battle royal mode, which is actually, I'm pretty sure they're going to adjust that, because in the maybe week and a half that I was playing this, like I've already hit the 100 level in the battle pass. So I'm like, I'm done. Like Lego is like 30, like in an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half. So, and then I can play that easily in Lego. So, and then the other modes too, like I said, anything you get there. And then of course they have the quests too that you can do in each mode. So that gives even more XP. So, which I was really surprised you could do that for the battle royale mode. But, and actually I think the festival has its own battle pass right now, or music pass, I guess you want to call it, as a separate one from the regular battle royal mode. So,
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because I would hazard a guess to believe that Epic doesn't really care if you pay for the battle pass anymore. Right? Like, I mean, most people, I mean, your hardcore Fortnite grinders, they don't pay for the battle pass anyway. They just play and earn the points back and then just right buy the next one.
yeah,
What really drives their business is the store and the cosmetics. And if that continues to be their money mill, then I mean, I think that supports the reason why, right, they would let you earn. I mean, you earn stuff for the battle pass that gets you into Fortnite, keeps you playing Fortnite. Now you're playing all four modes. Now you're going to tend to be more heavily invested in buying cosmetics, right, for those.
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
I think other there's Peter Griffin in the current battle pass. Except for him, I think all the rest of them, have that Lego equivalent. So, like I said, just that alone, like a lot of people like those little Lego guys, so like collecting them, all those minifigs. But it's just interesting, because they also have the within Fortnite, within the battle pass, they have the like the subscription one that you can do, that you pay monthly. So I mean, that's another thing too. They can kind of push people to, or not push people, but have it, hey, you can have the battle pass, but you can also do this, which actually I did do the math. It does come out a little bit cheaper if you do the battle pass through that way, because then that's actually a really good deal, because you get the Fortnite battle pass, you get the Rocket League battle pass, you get 1,000, I think, V-Bucks a month, um, a skin with like whatever other cosmetic, back bling and all that too every month, like a different one every month, and I think it's like 15 or 16 bucks. So, and it comes out a few dollars cheaper, like if you were just to do it, piecemeal throughout the year, or each month throughout the year. So, but that's interesting. All right, so let's jump in to the news. First up, I got the first story here, which is two reasons I put these two news stories. Obviously, it's kind of a legal thing, which is kind of my shtick here on the show. I do like the legal stuff. Not really a court thing, a court battle or anything on these stories, but this first one. Besides that, I didn't realize this game was still going. It was Maple Story, and I remember there was a guy that I used to work with like a long time ago, like 10 years ago, probably longer than that, where he was actually playing this game. Like he would talk about it constantly. I didn't even know what it was at first, but just kind of like MMO, but it kind of looks like it's like side scrolling more than just like an open world, 3D world. But this comes from Game Industry Biz. So Nexon was fined $8.9 million for misleading Maple Story players. And then in the article, it says Nexon has been fined 11.6 million, I believe that's won, for South Korean money, or $8.9 million by the Korean Fade Trade Commission for allegedly neglecting to inform customers about probability changes in-game items in Maple Story. So basically, they're kind of like, it's what they're called cubes that you acquire within the game. So I don't know if that's currency or just like some other kind of thing in the game. They've changed that over the years, and initially I guess they were like, hey, there's a disclaimer, or an email or whatever that they did and said, hey, we're changing the probability to you might this is going to be more or less, which in this case it's less. And they notified people, but then in like 2010 and kind of beyond, they started, I guess they were changing that probability, the frequency of that. Obviously it was less, but they never said anything to anybody. So they were hit with that. I guess it's like one of their biggest fines that they've given out. And then they also mentioned in the article that, they were actually previously fined 944.5 million won, which is about $722,000 for loot box practices in shooters sudden attack, which I never heard of, back in 2018. So they've been bad. I will just say that. But I just find it was kind of interesting that that there's actually this wasn't the U.S. obviously, it's South Korea, but they're holding these companies accountable for these kind of practices where you get these cubes. I'm assuming they didn't really mention what the cubes are really in the article, but I don't know if it's like
they
know if it's like a
they are
loot
the
box,
in-game they are the in-game currency.
it's just
So
currency. Okay.
Yeah, so it's what you use to go buy other stuff in the game, or
Okay. About the cosmetics and stuff.
Yeah. So what's kind of interesting about this article is, over the holidays we also had the kerfuffle in China, where there were notions that their commercial regulatory agency was going to crack down on gaming practices in the country, and so they were going to limit times. They were going to limit the specific ways in which things can be monetized. And one of the things they were looking at things like this. They were looking at cracking down on how many of those things like are non-transparent and like are kind of a mystery. And in I can't remember, but either in China or in South Korea, or maybe even both, there are greater mandates for transparency than we have in the U.S. And so I think they mentioned it in this article that they in certain Asian countries, they do have to say, hey, if this is a currency and it's not just a grind, right? Then we have to provide you the probability that for completing X task or X event, you're going to get X amount right out of this thing. You're supposed to provide you enough math transparency for you to basically calculate, hey, if I spend X number of hours in this game, I should expect to get this kind of a payout. and one of the problems with Nexon is they, I mean, at a certain point, because they were constantly kind of tweaking that formula and slowly kind of cranking it down, like slowly turning that faucet handle right and lower. You know, at a certain point in the timeline, they're just lying, right, to people, that they're just like the probability that was advertised, which people assumed was still consistent, was no longer true. And so over in China, you have people cracking down on this, and then and then of course China walked that back because people got really angry. The game industry got really angry. They $80 billion drained out of the stock value of NetEase and Tencent, like overnight. But concurrently, right, then you have this thing goes on, which essentially proves that the Chinese were not out to lunch, right, with their intention to crack down on this stuff, because companies are doing this thing. So it's it'll be interesting to see how the Chinese react to it, and like if they start, I don't think they're going to go back to proposing things as austere as they were proposing, but but this is a veritable fact, right? That's been proven that these types of things weren't being monitored and weren't being audited and weren't being subject to observation, right, and transparency. So it's and of course Nexon is a company that I mentioned on another podcast earlier this week that I'm not a super huge fan of them, because I actually liked Lawbreakers by Boss Key Studios, Cliff Bleszinski's old studio, and Nexon was their publisher, and there were extremely stringent commercial practices on how things had to be monetized that didn't were Bosky's philosophy on the approach to the game, and where those types of things tread on the game's design just eventually became unreconcilable between the two of them, and they parted ways, which is unfortunate, because Lawbreakers, I think, had a chance to be a really good game. But it also goes to prove that while we hyper focus on the EAs and the Activisions, to note that I would contend it's not just the big nasty companies that we hear about all the time that are out there trying to like squeeze every nickel out of the seat cushions that they can, but it's kind of like everyone. This is also the tale that there's a lot of themes in the gaming community that like certain companies are altruistic and have your best interests in mind, and other companies don't. And I'm like, you need to stop believing that. Like, all of these companies have one objective and one goal, and that's to return maximum earnings feasible to their investors, right? That is their fiduciary and legal responsibility, right? They can be fired, they can be fined for not doing that. And so nobody's out here really seeking to give you a good deal, right, out of the goodness of their heart. If they're giving you a perceived good deal, it's because they're trying to gain market share so that they can turn around and do the things that we see Netflix doing and Disney doing and T-Mobile doing, that you can do to consumers once you have as many of them behind the veil as you possibly can, and have a majority of market share. So good story pick. Very, very interesting unfolding. And again, they got what they got because they had been fined before, because of the duration of the time that they had been kind of doing this manipulation. That's why they got such a large hammer dropped.
Yeah. Has there been anything like this in the US before? Like, I know they had the loot box thing that's happened, but as far as like probability manipulation, I don't remember anything like that happening.
I don't think anything like that has happened in the US, because, like I said, I don't think we have, as far as I know, we don't have as stringent regulations in place. Like, you could, I mean, there's been saber rattling about that, and of course, I think a lot of industries in this country, once they hear the boogeyman of impending government regulation, they do things to kind of self-correct.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I don't think a hammer has been dropped like this, because I just don't think that we have the statutes in place to do so.
Yeah. All right. Next up is you got an article here about Samsung TVs, actually.
Yeah, so this article over on Engadget by Will Shanklin, Samsung will certify controllers optimized for game streaming on its smart TVs. And so the article quotes, I'll quote, Samsung is looking to boost the game streaming ecosystem around its smart TVs with a certification program ahead of CES 2024 in Los Angeles. The company today unveiled designed for Samsung Gaming Hub, which gives third-party accessory makers an official designation that their gear works with the platform. The program's first licensed gamepad from PDP is available for pre-order. So, a few things to kind of pick out of this. Number one, CES is next week for people who pay attention to gaming news but don't pay attention to kind of general consumer news. So the big trade show where there are lots of announcements and things. At least one of the two. I would say this one, and then the I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the Taiwan electronics show, which will be later, I think mid or late summer. Is the other. It's kind of the second half of the year, big trade show for consumer electronics. But we'll have things being announced. Some vendors are coming out. Samsung and ASRock are announcing new displays, new OLED displays, super high refresh rate displays like 400 and 520 hertz. Samsung is introducing into its Odyssey line some OLEDs. We expect NVIDIA will be announcing their 4000 series Super card. So lots of announcements, and you start to get, as you would kind of back in the days of E3, you start to get kind of trickle outs of announcements like this. So PDP is a company that makes the Victrix controller, which is kind of like a SCUF controller. It's a high end. I think they charge $180 for the Xbox version and $200 for the PlayStation version. But it's a high end kind of pro level controller that is a third party controller. So PDP has partnered with Samsung to make controllers for the Samsung gaming system. So kind of think about like the Android of opposition to Amazon Luna. So if Amazon's Luna is kind of a proprietary walled garden type of approach to a gaming streaming service, so, kind of akin to Apple, then the Samsung ecosystem is kind of an Android parody, right? Where they're trying to take a lot of different cloud streaming systems and incorporate them into the Samsung Gaming Hub. Right now, it includes Xbox Game Pass, it includes Boosteroid, it includes GeForce Now. So several different services are available through the Samsung Gaming Hub. This is apparently them trying to kind of make it like a real thing by not only providing you this software pathway, but also partnering with hardware vendors to make specific things. What do you get with a Samsung controller? Well, with the Samsung controller, in the Samsung Gaming Hub, and their televisions are already compatible with standard Bluetooth controllers. So one might argue that it's really not that much. You do get some specialized buttons. So, both the Xbox and the PlayStation each have buttons that are specific to their console. So you have your share button, you have your menu button, things that are not kind of generic Bluetooth controls, but are specific to the software implementation and the software interface via which they connect to the console. These certified controllers for Samsung Gaming Hub will provide the same thing. There'll be volume controls on the controllers. There'll be means to access the menu, other things like that. So I don't think it's that big a deal. This PDP controller is up for pre-order, by the way, right now. It's $50 on their own site, and it will be coming to Best Buy, and I think Amazon as well. Is the controller itself a big deal? No. Is it a bit significant that Samsung is leaning forward this additional 5 degrees or so to make this a thing? It's a thing to take notice of. It means that this seems to be something more than look on these smart TVs. I brought an old Vizio TV down into the basement and just set it up, and I was kind of playing with the software because I don't have like a Roku hooked up to it yet. But there's Netflix, there's iHeartRadio, there's all these things that people make deals to get onto the Samsung, the manufacturer's TV, right? There's money that changes hands. And so if Samsung is making an investment to have specialized controllers made for their gaming ecosystem, which is available via their TVs, it's probably not a small, insignificant thing in terms of their strategy and where they're going with it. I'm very kind of surprised. I actually I tend to get rid of a lot of stuff on my Samsung phones, but I actually need to take a look. I think I have seen like a Gaming Hub icon, and I need to see if there's parity between that app and what they're doing on the TV. But if they're making a push into Android, as well via their smartphones, that's even a stronger foot forward because obviously mobile is a big gaming place, and if there's synergy between what they're doing on the phones and what they're doing on TVs, then again, this is not insignificant. And then if you look at what other TV manufacturers are doing, I don't necessarily know that any other TV manufacturers are making as big of a play or as big of a deal of this. Samsung is a company that occupies a lot of breadth of space, a lot of horizontal space in consumer electronics, right between phones, TVs, even monitors on PC. Now, so again, it'll kind of be interesting to see where this thing goes.
Is that gaming hub? Is that just on their newer TVs? Do you know?
So
I have like a 2, maybe 3-year-old now TV that has, it has the Samsung stuff. I usually have all that stuff turned off just because I do everything through Roku and stuff. But I know I played around with. They did have the Xbox Game Pass that came out last year, I think, maybe even the year before. That I played around with a little bit, and I was able to pair my controller, Xbox controller, and it worked fairly well. But I was just wondering about the actual gaming hub.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact year models of their TV, but definitely it's the newer TVs. But also, I want to say it was 2023 and 2022 TVs. But then they went and did basically a retrofit and patched, and I think via firmware update you could get it on some older TVs as well. I think that only went back like an additional model year. So I want to say it's 2021, 22, and 23 TVs, 23 and 22 TVs that should already be on there. And then I think 2021 TVs you can add it via an upgrade and a firmware update. I know, and I mean for Samsung TVs, and I know you're saying, you usually have that stuff turned off. Samsung TVs are incredibly aggressive about not allowing you to get past, right, them pushing stuff in your face. So if you've got it, you're probably hyper aware of it if you have a later model TV.
Yeah. I just turn off the network, so it's like nothing's coming through.
Yeah, that's kind of the only way to do it. The Samsung TV that was my 4K TV that I got with my Xbox One X. I took upstairs. We're planning on replacing that now as well. But for the last 3 years or however long I've been using that thing, I constantly go, man, I can't wait to get a different smart TV than the Samsung because it just constantly tries to take control and say, oh, this is your Xbox that's hooked up. This is your PlayStation. I'm like, I don't need you to do anything with the console. I just need you to turn on and be a dumb screen. All the smarts and the intelligence are on the console itself. I don't need your interference. But yeah, so have fun gaming on your Samsung TV because they're going to make sure that you're aware of it. Undoubtedly.
Yeah, and actually, P2P I hadn't even heard of until just recently. My son bought one of their Switch controllers, like a Pro controller. It's actually pretty nice quality. I was kind of surprised. I had never heard of them, and I was like, "Oh, that's really nice. Like, it's really hefty, and it's not like I forgot what that other Target brand. I think he got at Target, but there's another Target brand that he would get to, that I would get also. And it's it's feels a little cheaper. It works fine, but it doesn't have all the internal like the gyroscopes and stuff. The one I was getting. This one I think has everything, so it's actually kind of nice. It's pretty well quality.
Yeah, the thing that's also super interesting about this while I was doing research is it's really interesting to find out what has to happen in order to license a third party to license a controller and to get a controller approved, by the console manufacturer. So just stepping away from the Samsung story a little bit, when you go out and buy a third party controller, the amount of effort that went into getting that controller to market is something that I think by and large gamers take for granted because we just don't know. So first of all, when you're a third party and you go to meet with them for the initial engineering negotiations and discussions, you are meeting with that console account rep weekly. And so this is one of the things that when I look back at what was going on with this year's Forza Motorsport and the problems that it has had, and I said, one of the things that was bothering me in the lead up to Forza Motorsport was I don't hear the wheel and pedal manufacturers, right, in the conversation that I normally hear. And I look back at the history of Forza Motorsport, and generally that was a year before Forza Motorsport would come out, 8 to 12 months before, you would hear, okay, the wheel and pedal manufacturers, are in having the detailed discussion about compatibility with Forza Motorsport. We didn't hear that for this year's. And again, this is, corroboration that, when those things are happening, they are very intense and they are very frequent. The other thing that was super interesting is when Xbox and PlayStation, when they go to make their console, and they go to procure the chipsets that are going inside the controllers, it's kind of like Apple procuring chips, or smartphone manufacturers procuring chips. They don't these aren't bargain bin chips that they're just buying from every vendor all over the world, right? They handpick a supplier or two or three that is going to be the provider for their chipsets, so they have a notion of quality control. When they lock that deal down, right, for making the chipsets for their controllers for that next generation of console, which is now going to be on the market for 7 years, the other thing that comes along with that is when the third parties come to them, they're going to push the third parties to be required to procure chips from those same vendors, right? They're not going to allow Mad Cats or or Logitech to go off and procure their own chips. They're using the same exact chips that are inside the Xbox controller and the PlayStation controller. And then the other thing that I found out that was super interesting was when you look at third-party controllers, and again, we as gamers complain, right? Oh, it doesn't have rumble, it doesn't have haptic, why is this Xbox controller wired? Which is a thing that I've literally wondered, like, for all these, like, the propensity of wired controllers of Xbox controllers that there are on the market. The fact of the matter is that the console manufacturers keep a lot of those features to themselves. Like, they don't license them out, or they make it incredibly expensive to license it. So with Xbox controllers, with wireless Xbox controllers, you tend to only see those from the really big manufacturers, or the people who charge really high prices. Scuff, Razer, some other vendors, but your smaller third-party vendors, right, and your kind of knockoff, like, Chinese vendors that are all over Amazon, you're going to tend to not find a lot of wireless controllers over there, because Xbox makes that, like, difficult help to jump over. With PlayStation, the haptic technology in the DualSense, they haven't licensed that out widely. It's only like a couple of vendors who have it, and then when they can't get the PlayStation specific proprietary haptic technology, they also don't implement rumble. And the reason they don't do that is because the console itself doesn't send signals. It doesn't have an API that addresses that command set, those endpoints, right, for the controller. So that's why you wind up having all these PlayStation controllers that don't have any type of force feedback, right, implemented. So it's just kind of super interesting to kind of find out how all that sausage is made for the controller industry, and to see how big a deal, right? And it causes like competition constraint as well, because unless you're a company that can pony up like big dollars up front, you're not going to find like smaller vendors coming in and really being able to make an effective go of it. They tend to be forced to partner with a larger vendor, right, in order to kind of get their foot in the door and get over that cost of entry.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting about the chips. I guess I never really thought about that, but it makes sense, I suppose. Like, you don't want to, you want to have the same stuff, same hardware in there, so there's not any issues, like any extra issues if there's something going on. So, um, yeah, cool. That's really nice. All right, so let's jump into our last news story for the night. Is another company being fined. This time it's Sony, fined by a French antitrust regulator for 13.5 million euros. Excuse me. It's about $14.7 million, I believe, in U.S. money. This was has accused the antitrust regulator, which I'm not going to even attempt to say because I can't pronounce it, which has accused the company of abusing its dominant position in the market by restricting third-party PlayStation 4 controllers. So this was filed last month, found a referral from a French controller manufacturer, Subsonic. Investigation found that Sony put counterfeiting measures in place in November 2015 that caused third-party controllers to regularly disconnect from the console during system updates. The competition, regulator has also found that the third-party manufacturers face difficulty in joining its licensing program, which alleged that Sony refused to communicate terms and criteria to manufacturers who'd requested it. The article goes on to say, it doesn't say where this quote is from, just from somebody in the antitrust regulator place. The combination of these two practices significantly damaged the brand image of the third-party manufacturers affected, with regard to both players and distributors, slowing down their expansion in the market and leading to their possible foreclosure. And then the end of the article has Game Industry Biz, this is from Sophia McAvee, has reached out to Sony for comment, and there's no updates yet so far. So I just, once again, just another QWERTY type thing that I just thought was interesting, and this was nothing. This was on an older controller too, it was PlayStation 4 controller, but that these companies are getting fined again, once again, to they're getting looked at and fined because they're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. So just another thing out there. And any comments on this one? No? All right. So let's jump into our last segment, our round robin segment. Talked about some more games. Game Logic, you want to take us into? Looks like you have a couple of Nintendo Switch games here. You want to talk about?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's unfortunate that DBQ couldn't be here with us because when I looked at the agenda, I think earlier today or maybe last night, it was like all Nintendo Switch for this last segment. Until I made like a last minute change, but yeah. So one of the things I've been getting into is the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on Nintendo Switch. It's a game that I've had for a while, but I just have I've gone and started it a couple times, but haven't really stuck with it. So I did do a new start this time around. I just been having a good time with it. I have been playing in handheld mode, so undocked handheld. Trying to definitely incorporate some handheld time. Now since the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck OLED, and I may look at picking up another. I may look at picking up another handheld PC. Maybe not. I don't find a ton of variance amongst them, and the Windows-based ones I've been less than enamored, from the things that I've read. But obviously, hopefully, we get a Switch 2 this year. One of the things that definitely stuck with me in spending some time with the Nintendo Switch OLED is even with the slightly larger OLED, to me there's value in a lot of people have said, hey, you have a Steam Deck now, why do you bother still having your Nintendo Switch? Why are you playing PC ports on your Nintendo Switch? And for me, like, there's just there's a significant amount of difference between the form factors. The Nintendo Switch being so much more compact, and it's really amazing kind of how slim it is, but could still play these PC ports, if the developer has done the job. And I'm like, could I play Nintendo Switch on my Steam Deck? I mean, could I play the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on my Steam Deck? Yes. But I could also play it on the Nintendo Switch. There's not a huge amount of difference in handheld mode between the implementation of that game across the two platforms. And if you're trying to travel a little lighter or be on a plane and have a slightly greater comfort level, there, like I said, I think there's still value in keeping a Switch around. It'll be interesting to see where it goes this time, if there's closer alignment to kind of the PC basis for the Nintendo Switch, and that does start to, the amount of variance you see in the software that's available between the Switch and the Steam Deck kind of gets, appears to be less of a gap. But for right now, I still have a good time, having my Nintendo Switch available to play some PC ports. Having a good time with Skyrim. Kind of dipping into a few things I haven't before. I didn't realize, as you go up to the first major city, Dragon's Reach or Dragon's Guard or whatever, that rather than like the head-on approach that I did last time in the quest, I actually kind of came in from a different angle on the city, and so I wound up running into like a blacksmith and started training to be a blacksmith. So became a lot more aware of the things you could do like at a blacksmith forge than I was the first time around in the game. So just not taking kind of the direct path that I did last time. Right now I've stopped to join up with the companions. So I'll kind of see where that takes me. So probably going to take a very Starfield-like approach to the game, where I'm not all that super wrapped around the axe about the core campaign. Also, super interesting as I go back, because like I said, I haven't spent a lot of time in Skyrim. We know that the engine between Skyrim and Starfield is the same, which was kind of part of the fault of Starfield. But I'm playing Skyrim and I'm seeing the loading screens right as I go into like each like different area, and I'm like this is literally the exact same technology that's in use in Starfield. I'm like, this is definitely a thing that should have been I mean, definitely yet another case and a strong reason for, whether Starfield, hopefully, it would have been feasible for them to entertain the notion of updating the engine and doing Starfield on a different technology base. But obviously, if they did that, it would have never come out at the time that it did. But it's just kind of stark and I don't want to say flabbergasting, but it's just it's really impactful to see, right, the similarities right in the technology base and just the notion that they haven't really moved that far from each other between Skyrim and Starfield. But other than that, having a good time with it, having a good time, with the dialogue trees and the branching and the variants that it provides, and having a good time playing it on the Switch OLED. Really good piece of hardware.
This is not the special edition, right? This is just the regular, you had already had this, right? You already had this version.
Yeah, you can upgrade to the special edition for like $20 right now.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, it'll be a struggle for me to get to the content that's already available. So I was tempted. The thing I was really trying to ascertain, and this is, my knock on digital stores, which I guess now I'm seeing that it's, I've made the complaints about the Xbox store and the PlayStation store, but I'm seeing it now with the Nintendo store as well, as far as, really all the stores console stores really need to do a much better job of being very, very like laser explicitly clear on what is the difference and what is the delta between one package or the other. It's very, very, very difficult for me to tell. If I could have been certain that buying the $20 upgrade would have brought visual improvements, which is the case on every other platform, right? On every other platform, if you update to the special edition on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation, you get a graphical improvement. It's very difficult to tell if that you get that on the Nintendo Switch, because they make one kind of side comment about it in that direction, but it's not very clear. And then when you read down through the rest of the ad copy, it's really about all the expansions and the DLC, right, and the additional story stuff that you get with it. Nary a mention of performance or visuals. So, I may do some more digging around for that, but I may just, be fine with it. It's not going to get that much better on the Nintendo Switch anyway. So,
yeah.
But yes,
there's a couple of like fishing and some other thing that they added, which you're probably not gonna miss out on those things.
right.
All right, and then you had another
and then
exclusive.
And then I went, the reason I got into Skyrim was because one of my things going into the start of this year is I really wanted to kind of pick up, along with my kind of battle pass type of stuff, I really wanted to identify a couple of games that kind of are never-ending games that, provide me that kind of zen of a constant do loop without, a lot of progression-oriented stress around it. And so the Elder Scrolls was what I picked on the Nintendo Switch. Actually, interestingly, on the Xbox, it was No Man's Sky. But I also wanted to make sure that I spent some time, getting some value out of Nintendo Switch Online. And so the game that I picked up and started playing was Mario Golf. I say Mario Golf 64, although it's not really Mario Golf 64. It's just Mario Golf because that's where Mario Golf first appeared on the Nintendo 64. So I've been playing that. I played the timed mode at first, and now I'm playing the tournament mode. I've had a yen for a good golf game. I actually wanted to go. I may go back and buy last year's PGA Tour, which wasn't a great game, but is a golf game on PC that kind of scratches that old Tiger Woods PGA itch just a bit. And so I've been thinking about going back and picking that up. And in the meantime, I just, wanted to try out this Mario Golf. It has, it's not easy. It presents kind of the same challenges that you normally would have in a PC golf game. But the problem I have is that the intuitiveness of the control system, of the control scheme, and kind of, coming off of the golfer tee and kind of trying to get up into like the 3D camera overhead view to kind of see the lay of a given hole is a little clunky. So I've figured out parts of it, but there are some things that are still kind of an impediment. It also, where I feel I need to, so I'm pitching with my sand wedge because that's the only thing available, right? The distance you are from the tee from the cup, you're not going to pull out an iron, but you're also definitely not going to pull out a putter. That's a 66. I can't remember if it's in feet or yards, but that's a 66 foot club. And then you're like, okay, I'm in the rough. I got a headwind, but the ball's not going to achieve that much height. So, normally I might say, okay, I need to hit this at like 2/3 power, and 2/3 power can often either wind up being, overpowered or underpowered, in ways that don't entirely make intuitive sense in terms of like the experiences that I've had with other golf games. So, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of what it appears to be the notion of there being greens that are faster than other greens when you're up at the cup, but that not really being transparent. At first I thought you might see a difference in the range on the max range on the putt, which is I think normally 100 feet, but that turned out to not be the case. So there are some kind of very esoteric things that are kind of seem to be kind of buried where I'm looking for keys and cues off of the UI that I might normally expect, like in a PGA Tour, that I'm not seeing. But I do see their impact in the physics model, right? And I'm like, okay, if you're going to incorporate it in the physics model, you need to give me something that I can see. So, I'll continue trying to kind of figure it out. I may have to dig back into some old guides, some old notes, right, to see if there's any weirdness, like I've been playing this past week. I've been playing Dirt Rally 2.0, and I had completely for instance, but I had completely forgotten that basically in that game, you're not winning anything unless you always run with the soft tire. So I went back to the game after a long layoff, thinking simulation. I need to pick the right tires for the thing, but it turns out there's like some long living endemic bug, and that might be the type of thing that I'm seeing in Mario Golf, where there's just a certain way, a certain thing of how it works that everybody figured it out when the game first came out. But if you're coming back to the game, as a retro game, those things you're not gonna pick up on unless you go back and read, right? So kind of all those old posts to figure that out.
Nice. All right. And I'll keep on the Switch train here. I've been playing Palia, which is that kind of survival crafting MMO-ish game. I actually started this a little bit before. I think actually I mentioned it on the show before, the Superlative show. I had started playing it on PC and Switch. I only had a chance to play it on Switch this past week when I actually went out of town for the holiday. So I was just looking for something. Actually, there's another game I forgot to put on here. Maybe I'll mention that next week. I just wanted something kind of just kind of chill to go through. I didn't really feel like playing um, Minecraft, and I was playing Lego also during this time period, so I had that also. This was a little bit different since it's kind of an online game, but I haven't actually had a chance to play with anybody yet, so I'm not really sure how all that works. Like, because when you're in the game, like they give you like a plot of land, and that's kind of what you're building up and around. So I'm not sure if like how that works. Like if you're playing with somebody else, can you like visit their land? Do they have a land in there too, or like are you just playing on my land, or am I just playing on their land? Like how that, all that works. But I was just kind of going through the kind of the story and doing some missions and quests and stuff. So nothing too spectacular, but just kind of trying to build up my little homestead, as it were. I just like when you first start out, you get like a little tent. I finally got like a house that I was able to build, and that like took, I think it was like 8 hours or something. So I had to wait for that, like a day for that, because I did it during the night. So overnight, I got the house the next day, which is nice. So now I'm trying to, fix that up and furnish it, and then I can upgrade it and, get more rooms and stuff like that. And, just, I finally got my little Breath of the Wild type, like little glider that I can, glide around the world in. So which is kind of nice. And you can get around a lot faster with that thing. So that's kind of cool. And I think that was pretty much I had that I was able to do in that game this past week, other than just doing some, like I said, some little bit of side quests and stuff like that. And a lot of fishing. I've done a lot of fishing in this game. I don't know why. It's pretty simplistic, and like in most of these games, like just like in Animal Crossing and stuff. But it's kind of fun. It's just kind of, and you kind of have to do. I actually had to do it for one of the quests, but then I kind of kept doing it just to see what fish I can get. And I think you can make different recipes for food and stuff like that. It gives you, a little bit more, stamina or a little bit more health and stuff like that. So I've been doing that. So I'll continue to do that hopefully in the next few weeks and months and stuff, and hopefully get a chance to play with somebody and see how that is. But you, I'm assuming, have been playing with people in Halo Infinite on the PC. I'm assuming doing multiplayer.
Yeah, just with randos. I'm not going to talk about it a lot tonight because we're running a little over. But yeah, been playing Halo Infinite Season 5 on PC. So continuing to plug away at that.
Nice. All right. So that is it for tonight's episode. On our What's Up Next little segment here, looks like you got a PC game next you're gonna jump back into.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull down Death Stranding on PC. I have the director's cut version via the Epic Game Store, but I'm gonna pull down the baseline version via PC Game Pass and check that out on PC.
Forget about that. It's on Game Pass.
Yep. So been like I said, been trying to loop back to some games that I wanted to spend a little time in the stories of, since I'm just not a big huge story person, and that's kind of my next assignment that I'm looking at.
Nice. All right. And I will continue to play the finals, probably mostly on PC. I might play it on Xbox possibly also. And like I said, I'll probably jump into Palia again and play a little bit through that. All right. Well, thank you, Game Logic. It's nice to be back. It seemed like we were gone forever, actually. We had just like 2-3 week break, but it seemed like a very long time that we're out. But we will be back next week once again for episode number 322. Should be on the same day and time, Sundays, 7:45, 8 o'clock-ish. Please come and see us then. If anybody stopped on the stream, thank you for doing that. Or if you're watching on VOD, thank you for watching us once again. You can check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, and some other podcasting type.
Time zone for the live show, because you said 7:45, 8 o'clock, that's Central Time.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
So 8:45 p.m.
that
Eastern Standard Time. If you're on the East Coast, it'll be 7:45 p.m. ish. Sometimes we run 15 minutes later, so 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. If you're trying to come in for the live show.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Game Logic, for joining me tonight. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please take care of yourselves and play those games. We will see you next time.
I spend my Mondays like Fridays, spend my Fridays in a box, my heart and my whining. I put my opponents on pedestals, instead of keeping them grounded. What's that mountain to nothing? Let's make something from nada. Let's go to Gucci and Prada, set the buildings on fire. Screaming death to the designer while we listen to ponder. I'm on a grown man, baby face, kind of a tantrum. Spreading like cancer did, my father's skeleton. Damn, brain, Saturday come, I'm crying to help with them. I ain't good at embellishing, I'm more better with medicine than a spoonful of sugar, watching everything go down. That's a long way, pray that I never see the ground. A long day, I swear there's a better me around. Just gotta grab it, this is magic, this is switch and lost and found. Make my baggies do a backflip, stick the land and hit the town. With my homies smoking spliffs until our lungs burst. We some songbirds who made our way out of the cage. We all some dumb nerds, probably should get to acting our age. But where's the fun in that? We going fishing, dreams kept intact, skipping plans, playing hooky on school days. You make your place in the world, don't let them try to tell you otherwise. This is it. Life's like a party out with Pennywise. That's a stroke of my ego out the tip of a fountain. Head me in, swear to God I love